Hi, Dan here. Just want to do an introduction to writing for the media, the creative strand. So you have to excuse me because I'm doing this on a jog, and I apologise if I look sweaty and the sound is all over the place, and all you can hear is the percussive sound of my feet. I try and run away from gravel. Okay, so there's lots of elements to the unit, and that's because there's a vast amount of material to cover in a creative writing unit or module. So to keep it simple, the main focus is going to be on 4 areas. I'll call these the 4 devices, the 4 techniques. I'll put some reading on bright space and try and keep the reading minimalist, so we're going for quality over quantity. So the 4 devices, they are scenic writing, the second one is realistic dialogue, then we have interior thought, and finally the last one is symbolic detail, God being in the detail. So let's take those one at a time. Scenic writing. It's a case that people really like to see the film rather than read the book. But at the same time, books are written in a cinematic way. So I've talked to you before, and we'll go through this again. There's the 3 main shots that you do in cinema. So you have the wide shot, the mid shot, and the super close up. So those are kind of like 3 main elements, and you can use that in a story as well. Then it comes down to all these elements of writing being, and I'll just give you a wide shot here for a second. This is a wide shot which shows you where I'm running. Sorry about that, I blow my nose. Okay, so scenic writing. That's often when you'll hear in creative writing schools, people try and tell you, show don't tell. Now the problem is, students are used to writing essays, and essays are like a massive, huge download of contextual information. It's too much for the reader to take in. They feel they've got to have a great, huge dollop of information to go and tell you who the characters are, what their backstory is, and do that in one huge lump. So I'm going to see if I can just get you to jump into a story in medias res, and then you've only got a very short, tiny word count for this. It's around 1,000 words. It's what could be called flash fiction. And what we'll do is see if you can tell those stories, but by writing scenically. So scenic writing is vital, people love it. Show don't tell, scenic writing, that's the first bit. But what students have a terrible thing to do, terrible tendency, and they do this in journalism, they do this in essays, what they have a tendency to do is to tell. And telling is kind of really dreary. Another word for it is exposition. When you write, I've just come into a massive puddle. You have to excuse me. I've just got to negotiate my way around a very boggy area. Oh my God, this is boggy. Right, okay. I have got filthy feet now. Yep, filthy feet. Just going to show you that back there, as you refuse to see it. Really filthy. Okay, next one. dialogue. Now, authentic dialogue, why the term authentic? Well, you need to be able to do dialogue, how people talk, and people don't talk in a way that you'll probably recognise. People actually talk in quite a messy way, incomplete sentences. People don't listen to each other and do like a Q&A. They often do talk at cross purposes. Someone says something and the other person totally ignores it. So authentic dialogue is quite hard to go and figure out how to do that. It's just a tricky one. So I'll be giving you advice on how to make dialogue really sound authentic, as if it comes off the page, as if someone is really saying these things. And oddly, you think about drama, these things do interrelate. If you look at Shakespeare, which is obviously dialogue driven, theatrical writing, even Shakespeare writes scenically within the dialogue. So these four devices can overlap. Okay, next one, interior thought. Much neglected. Neglected and confused. People think, unfortunate pun, people think that when you kind of, well, you call it, getting very technical here, if you do what's called the mimesis of the mind. Now, show, to give it its classical term, mimesis, mimetic, a bit like mime. Think of mime in wrestling, something like that. Something like wrestling isn't real wrestling. Sometimes it's a mime. If you look at the wrestling figures that kids get, that's a mimetic form of sport. The opposite to that is digesis, to tell. So mimesis of the mind, people often get the way that people think confused with the way that people talk. But here's the oddity. People think the mind is a secret place, and that when we have the mind being portrayed in fiction, that it's a sort of mysterious inner place. Well, there is another theory, and these are theories, that we can infer the workings of the mind through body language and things like that. So, although there's a theory that the mind is a secretive place, another way of looking at it is it's a very social and not so much easily read idea, but we can infer, we can kind of guess or have a reasonable supposition what someone is thinking through body language, things like that. Okay, the last one, my favourite. God being in the detail, symbolic detail. Now, every word has to count. So, in a story like this, there's no room for cliches. There's no room for images. And when I say imagery that isn't original. So in your piece, I would hope you can use original images, but every one of those, the little detail that you use, God being in the detail, the super close-up, where the emotional power lies. But I hope what you will do in your piece is aim for a story that has really powerful detail, that really moves the reader with the detail. You don't have to even tell the reader what the theme is, what the story is about, but it can be conveyed very slyly, almost surreptitiously, through the use of detail. And you don't have to share the theme, you don't have to even share the explanation of what the detail means. It can work subliminally on the reader. But here we go. Here's another important thing, that readers are super smart. They can spot a cliche, they can spot an original image because it will stick in their memory. A cliche won't, but using a powerful original image will stick in their memory. So there we are. There are the 4 devices. Just to recap them again, these are the main focuses that we will have in the lectures. So the 4 devices are scenic writing, authentic dialogue, interior thought, mimesis of the mind if you prefer, very technical term, and then finally symbolic detail, God being in the detail. Right, that's it, we are done by the town hall and the cenotaph. Take care.